Hello, this is Mark Schwingle from the DPI Teaching and Learning team. Welcome to this overview of the 2025-26 Wisconsin Gifted and Talented Grant Application. Purpose and allocation information. As the statutory language is currently written, grantees must use funds to provide students with learning opportunities that are not part of their daily schooling. Our allocation again this year is just under $475,000. But be aware that the state budget must be passed before any grant funds can be awarded. Eligible applicants and award amount. Eligible applicants include CSAs, 501c3s, that is nonprofits, UW system schools, as well as any Wisconsin public school district. The minimum amount for any award is targeted to be $10,000. Final decisions will be made after all applications are reviewed. Eligible activities. Student learning opportunities must be systematic and continuous rather than single events. For example, a single one-day regional leadership workshop would not be an eligible activity, but potentially could be included if it was one component of a semester or year-long effort. Learning opportunities must also be different from those ordinarily provided in the classroom. Limited educator training directly related to providing these student services can be included. However, applicants must support why this training is necessary and how it will result in direct services to students. Building off that previous slide, the direct services / activities for students, shown in the rectangle, are required to be eligible for funding. Professional development for staff, in the triangle, could be included if the training is supporting the direct services and activities for students with gifts and talents. Please also review the brand new application checklist with some guiding questions that can be helpful in making sure that your application is addressing what is in the state statutory requirements and other general ideas that can improve your application. I'm sharing this information since in years past, we've had some situations where grant applications were not eligible for funding because their application has one of these issues. The issues are, and shown in the first bullet, this is an automatic no-go. If you don't have direct services and activities for students, your grant would not be funded. Second bullet, here I'm talking about what I call one-off activities. For example, a field trip that is fun but is disconnected from other learning. The key idea here is that the activity is part of a larger project and not the entirety of the project. The third bullet, here we see that there are both student activities and staff PD, but the student piece is really just an afterthought. So again, please review the brand new before you submit checklist for more ideas that could help you in making sure that your grant could be potentially funded. Ineligible activities. The first three ineligible activities on the screen are hopefully self-explanatory, but please reach out if there are questions. The last two reinforce the idea that learning opportunities must be systematic and continuous, be aligned with the grant goal or goals, and offered during the regular school year. Funding preference. This preference is an attempt to carry forward the important area of focus in our collective work, our aim to mitigate disproportionality in the identification of high ability students who are eligible for free and reduced price lunch, or English learners, as well as our students of color. Data show that these students are often under-identified as gifted and talented. A list of possible practices and tools related to this preference are noted in the grant guidance. One final note, this preference will only be used when deciding about funding for applications that have comparable scores. Thus, if two applications have comparable scores, but one application is attempting to address disproportionality and the other is not, the one that does is more likely to receive funding. But it's worth noting that an application is reviewed carefully before any decisions are made. Nuts and bolts. As was the case last year, we are again using the web-based survey form called Qualtrics to apply. On the DPI webpage, there is a link you can use to preview the Qualtrics screens and application questions. Please note that because 2025 is the beginning of a biennial budget year that is required to be approved by the legislature and the governor, there are often delays in getting the grant awards out. So please plan to start the bulk of your grant activities on this grant beginning no earlier than late fall, early winter. GT Grant Application Overview. The latest grant guidance should be reviewed closely. Similarly, the grant rubric should also be carefully reviewed for specific ideas about what each section requires and what each section is worth point-wise. Note, not all sections are worth the same amount. Finally, only one action plan is required, but there is an option to add more in the application if you so choose. Special note for 501c3 applicants, that is, nonprofits. A federal tax exemption determination letter is needed from 501c3 organizations who apply for this grant, although it is not required for you to submit that as part of the initial application. Grant review process. There's both an external and internal review process. Final decisions about grant awards are made by the state superintendent's office. Important note for successful grant applicants. The full amount of funding that you requested may not be available since we attempt to fund as many projects as possible. This decision is made with great care based on a whole host of factors. If your application is not fully funded based on your original request, we will ask you to update the budget total accordingly. Timeline. The deadline to submit applications is the date listed on this slide and on the DPI Gifted webpage. Submit proposals electronically using the Qualtrics form. The notification to applicants date in this timeline is tentative. The date ultimately is dependent on when the state budget is passed, the number of applications received, the time needed for a review of all applications, and the final approval steps. Please send an email to me, Mark Schwingle, if you have questions. And thank you for watching this video.